Hey cousins, welcome to Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas.
Welcome, cousins, to this episode of Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas. I'm your cousin Cornell Wright, the people's lobbyist. Join me and let's talk about some of the things that's been going on, and let's have our own little Brown Liquor and Bad Idea poll. Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas is intended for the participation of responsible adults of legal drinking age who wish to engage in substantive virtual discussions and social drinking for entertainment purposes only. Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas does not advocate the abuse of alcoholic beverages. Choosing to participate in any of the drinking activities shared in the program should be made with moderation and caution and is the sole responsibility of the user. Now, cousins, you still need to be wearing your mask, right? You know, there's Alpha, Delta, Omicron variant out there. And at last count, there was over 800,000 cousins in the United States who have died from COVID-19. And if you recall, somebody once said this was a farce and it was make-believe and was going to go away. No, cousin, that was a bad idea. So, keep wearing your mask to help your other cousins out. So first of all, cousins, let me kind of say, reach out with sincerity and with an open heart and prayers for all the cousins in Kentucky who had that horrific tornado situation. Now, to my understanding, I don't think we know how to stop tornadoes or prevent them, and so it was just a terrible thing, and I hope that all the help they receive from the government and from other cousins around, hope it gets to everybody in time to do the best they can to make the best of that bad, terrible situation, okay? But just as an FYI, you know, just talking about that, and this may have seemed like we've heard a lot about this. According to the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, you know, the folks who measure our weather and trends and all that kind of stuff, there have been 18, and count them 19, because we talk about Kentucky, there have been 19 natural disasters in the United States, which all had over $1 billion worth of damage. Cousins, think about that, 18. So it's almost like every cousin in every part of the country has been impacted by some natural disaster. There's nothing we can do, I don't think, about natural disasters because, you know, that's nature. What we can control are those things that have to do with environmental considerations, and maybe we're starting to pay a little bit more attention to that, and maybe those numbers will start to get better. But that number as of September of 2021 was a new record, cousins. That's not good. So, but what can we do? We have to figure out the best way to survive and continue managing that. And by the way, the federal government, the FEMA program, has the money in order to help people take care of that and help cousins. So do we want to make sure that FEMA has enough money? I think so, cousins. I think that's a good idea that we can all get behind, right? So, cousins, as your lobbyist, it's always good to take a poll or a pulse, if you will, and try to understand where people are. So let's have a little bit different role play today. There's nobody here with me other than the production team here at Baobab Tree Studios. But let's assume that we were going to get together, maybe someday soon, maybe next year in one of our programs. And just what would be the conversation we would have as you would be sitting around having a glass of a little bit of brown liquor? The first thing I might want to say to your cousins is real simple. It's like, how are you feeling, right? You know, if you care about somebody, you want to know how they're feeling. You know, I'm not going to give you the temperature test on your head as you go into some doctor's offices, but just generally, how are you feeling? More specifically, you know, as I'm trying to lose a couple here, are you gaining weight or losing weight? Okay, hopefully, if you have a little bit extra on you, you're losing a little bit, and if you need a little bit gain something, you're taking care of that too. But as all the guys know, as we start getting a little older, you know, now becomes a question: what are your numbers, man? You know what I'm talking about. So it's all part of it, is how are you doing? So the next question is, of course, if we were sitting around, we'd be asking, what do you have in your glass? Well, I'm not being sponsored by anybody today, so I can't tell you, but it's good and it's brown. And I think it's from the United States, so that's a good thing in this regard. Not that there aren't good browns from other places, not to disrespect anybody. It's all good, right? And the other question I might want to ask is, what have you learned new? Okay? You know, because this is an amazing world and things are going really fast. And so if I'm your friend or we're caring about each other, don't we want to share the new news that we have that's important, accurate, and will help to inform us to be able to make better decisions? So cousins, the question was, what do you know that's new? Okay? As we step back from there, let's be political for just a moment. And let me prod you a little bit on thinking about what has your congressional representatives and your senators done for you this year? Because you know, cousins, I thought a lot about this. And if you go back and you look at the program and the benefits that congresspeople and senators get, it's pretty rich. We might even do a program on that next season. But when you also think about it, how often do we really challenge them or test them to have them identify what they've done for us this year? Think about it, you have a job and nobody who you're working for ever comes ask you to justify what they've done. That's a pretty good job, isn't it? So cousins, and these folks are really important because we start to see how they have importance in regards to the votes, in regards to who's in the government, in regards to programs that are in place, in regards to policies. They have a lot of impact on things that impact our lives. And that can make our lives better or more difficult. You with me, cousins? So why shouldn't we be asking those? First of all, we have to know what they're doing. And then after you figure out what that is, why are they either acting in our benefit or not? All right, because you think about it, there was a whole discussion about the infrastructure bill in which everybody in the country is going to be able to get something, every single state. And then all of a sudden, for a long time, there was no discussion with any of the Republicans because they didn't seem to want to talk about it. Well, but then all of a sudden, we started getting it, and 19 senators, I think, voted for it finally. Why wasn't that almost a unanimous vote for everybody? And were those senators who did vote for it, are they running for elections next year? I don't know, cousins. You check it out. See what happens in your state. It's kind of late to the party in some cases, right? So the other question is, cousin, here's one on a more personal level. For your next vehicle, what are you going to buy? Gasoline, hybrid, or electric? I don't know. I still have this little hankering for a nice high horsepower gasoline car in my future, but it's starting to become real difficult. And if you really look at the performance on some electric cars and trucks are pretty good in regards to things I might be considering doing, like driving fast. Hey, cousins, it's a bad idea, but sometimes I do it. How about you? So the other question I want to ask is, think about this one. This one really gets to be a good one. Is what is or how good is the STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math curriculum in the schools that your kids attend? How good is it? Have you gone as a member of the Parent-Teacher Association and asked those questions? Has your local school board given you any reports recently on how your school system is doing? And then, by the way, have you talked to your state legislature to make sure that your school districts or city legislatures, the case might be, they both kind of come into play depending upon the state you live in, to make sure that you're getting the best possible STEM education for your kids? And the short answer is that we all can see almost in everything that the more STEM education you have, the better off the kids are going to be. And by the way, for STEM and STEAM, it never happens too soon. Because you can't get into high school as a senior not having taken any of the hard or requisite math courses and then decide you want to be an engineer in college. You don't have time to catch up. Your mind hasn't had that development, hasn't had that training, haven't used those muscles. Now, it's not to say it can't be done, but it's more difficult than starting off when you're in 6th grade with the more difficult and the more advanced math, right? So with that, what is that? Do you know? If not, cousins, I suggest you find out, because it's a bad idea if you don't. And more specifically, let's be really honest. Those are the technologies that are going to be, and those learnings that's going to be critical for our international competition and competitiveness moving forward. In a number of areas, we're behind for other countries in the world in that. So let's get on the case and start figuring out, and the sooner we do that, the better. So one way, just ask, how much money is allocated in your city budget, for your state budget, and from the federal budget as a percentage to drive education for all of our kids? Okay? Other one, since we know that the stock market is not the economy, Stock market's going really great, right, cousins? If you have enough money to be in the stock market, you're doing well. But you know what, cousins? Only about 10 or 15% of the cousins out there are actually in the stock market. And even a smaller percentage of that actually has a significant percentage of the ownership of the stock market. So what really becomes important to most of us cousins then is what's your personal economy look like? How's your job? How's your wages? How are your benefits? Do you have health care? You see, cousins? Those are things that start to become important to us. You know, the taxes about, this, that, and the other. Well, I actually think they're below a certain level, you shouldn't pay any taxes. And they ought to raise that number because it's becoming more expensive to live, isn't it? You taught me, cousins, but I think if you do that math and you look at it, the numbers will bear it out. And then how can somebody who claims to be a billionaire pay $750 in taxes? That's a bad idea, cousins. I don't care how you cut that. How can you justify that? I'm a billionaire, I paid $750 in taxes. It's a bad idea, cousins. So as you look at that, you start going through, and I'm going to start to wrap up here, is that if there was one thing I'd say to you, we were sitting down having one, I'd say let's work on getting more information so that we can understand what are those things that brings us closer together. Not the things that tear us apart. There's plenty of that information out there. You can go to the dark web, you can go to the regular web, all the algorithms, as we know from the various social media platforms, they tend to give us more of what we're already interested in, which moves us what? Further and further apart, right? I don't know if it doesn't seem like there's an algorithm that brings us closer and closer together, does it? Maybe there is, but that'd be one to ask. I haven't seen that one. But, so what it is, cousins, what can we start to recognize are what's important that brings us together so we can have common ground, identify and believe on some common things, and then move forward there in order to identify the things that are more divisive. Let's come together first. So speaking of coming together, Christmas is going to be coming up this week. I wish you all happy holidays. Within happy holidays, let me say Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanza, Happy Hanukah, Feliz navidad, Buon Natale, and those are only the two languages I know. All the other ways to say Merry Christmas to everybody else as well. All right? So have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays with your family, regardless of what tradition you celebrate in. And with that, get your vaccines. Have a wonderful holiday. Subscribe, get your vaccine, keep wearing your mask, enjoy your holidays. We'll see you next time on Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas.
We are the people. Welcome to the show. Here we go again. Hey, cousin.